Hey everybody, Phil McLeod again on Better Than I Used to Be. Today talking to Kerry, who's here to talk about health anxiety. Another really great subject matter and a really great conversation. So thanks to Kerry for that. If you feel like you need any help at all, then you can get in touch with me, obviously, for personal or business, and we can see what we can arrange around helping. Take care. Hello everybody, today I'm joined by Kerry. She's come here to talk around health anxiety, so thank you very much and welcome, Kerry.
You're welcome. Hello, everybody, or hello to you.
Thank you for your time this morning, much appreciated.
No problem.
Health anxiety, though, it's quite a specific subject, and it's something that you've dealt with for quite some time.
Yes, a lot of years.
So what was the base of it, or when did it all come about initially for you?
Oh, I was about 16-year-old, and I had been taken into hospital, and I think that's when I first picked up. I was having a bit of anxiety, and they knew it was around about exams. I was stressing about your GCSEs because my mum always says I've got common sense, but to be top of the class, I always struggled at school. So I'd got rushed into hospital with some pain and thought it was appendicitis. Then they realised it wasn't. So they give us some painkillers to subside the pain, and they give us an injection, and I had an allergic reaction to them.
Okay.
So that night I thought, as a child at 16, I thought I was dying. I remember my heart was like really irregular. I had spiders hallucinating coming down from the ceiling. I remember just lying on the bed focusing. I waved a leg backwards and forwards, and I was holding my mum and dad's hand thinking, this is my time. It was a horrible traumatic experience. And then I would say slowly from then it began.
That's pretty traumatic experience. So
I think even for an adult, never mind a 16-year-old that's
Yeah.
going through a bit of a life change anyway, like leaving school, what you're going to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
So quite a stressful period in a young person's
Yes.
life,
Mhm.
and then that on top of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how long were you in hospital for?
So I was on that occasion. I think I was in say 3 or 4 days. Then I was sent home.
Yeah.
But I was poorly, so at that time you had I think you still do now. You get an open ticket, basically. You go back to the children's ward. It was in, so I went back, and I remember it was a Saturday. I was lying on the ward in the hospital, and all of a sudden I felt like I couldn't breathe, and I panicked, and the nurse came, and she talked and through us, and that's when I had my first panic attack. Then I had gone a little bit mad again. And they said it was because it brought back to the drugs, because another girl who I sort of still keep in touch with had got admitted, and her parents thought I was a druggie because I was all over the place and acting really weird. And that's when they identified that what happened with them tablets or the injection that I had. They don't know which one it was that I had the reaction to. That was in the back of my mind, and obviously I had not realised I was focusing on it, and that was it. I thought it was just awful.
Yeah, it sounds pretty traumatic's the only word I could spring
And
to
I
mind.
still remember to this day, I was lying on the hospital bed. I remember where it was, how it was, and the nurse was holding my hands and looking really close into my eyes, and she was like, I want you to breathe, and I want you to pretend you're on a beach. And still sometimes to that day, if I am a little bit anxious or panicky, I take my mind back to there. That's quite how that's stuck. In my mind times. That's what I do still. And I actually still see this nurse about. I would never say anything to her.
Yeah.
But I think, I always remember you for trying to calm me down like that. But yeah.
So that one piece of advice has stuck with
It's
you all
stuck
these
with
years?
us till all these years later.
Okay.
And I don't mind saying, it's been from the age of 16, and I'm just 48 now, so it's been with us a lot of years.
It's a long, long time to carry something with you.
Yeah.
And of course, things have developed in regards to sort of mental health and all those types of things, but sort of, not to make you sound old, but back in the day, so to speak, there was less understanding around it as well. So if that had been now, you maybe would have been referred to a counsellor or a therapist or support worker. But then it wasn't. You were just sent home, and that was that.
That was it, really. I just went home, and you just get on with day-to-day life. But what we noticed, and my parents noticed, is I never swallowed another tablet again.
Really?
Yeah, just wouldn't.
Right.
And medicine, I don't have a problem, even as an adult now, because obviously in my mind it was tablets and an injection. So I would swallow medicine, but I don't mind saying, this is why I want to make it so, like, out there. I used to have to literally lick the spoon a tiny bit, and I'd give myself a few hours, and if I was all right within the hour, because if you're going to have a reaction to something, then I'd think, right, I'm going to be safe. So anything from a doctor or anything, all the way through my adult life, until probably just recently, like in the last maybe 2 years, I've got better.
Yeah.
But more so in the last year.
Right.
So, like, I think the one time I had a tablet, I was pregnant with my oldest child, and had such a severe headache, and my mum literally made us take one, and she took one. I think she was like, "This is a paracetamol," and popped it out the box. She put it in half, but afterwards, I was walking and pacing the floor, and yet again, my poor dad had to come and try it, because my dad was the one that calmed us down most of the time. Had to, like, talk us and say, look, your mum's took one.
So he had to talk you down almost as well.
Really, I was up a height. So,
Wow.
so what I've done, I've carried swallowing a tablet and having an injection around with us.
Yeah, all of these years. So you've always, sort of medication wise, you've always been reluctant, but it's always in a liquid form, like Calpol, for example.
Yeah.
You know, that type of thing is fine, or cough medicine's fine.
Fine.
But the tablet or the injection was took you back to that
took us back.
16-year-old.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so traumatic.
And you've managed that all of these years and carried it round with you.
Yes.
And sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, when I look back, because I've had obviously 3 pregnancies, and on my first I think when I was a bit younger, it was traumatic, but I didn't worry about it as much, because obviously I had my children all in my 20s, but I always remember I had to be in control. So when I had my first labour, second labour, third labour, as long as they were, hard as they were, I didn't have a single drop of anything. I had natural labours. And not because I thought I was hard as nails, because I was frightened.
Yeah.
And I had to be in control to deliver that baby into the world in case something happened.
Yeah.
So, and I always remember when you have your delivery, you get, and everyone gets the injection in the tummy or something to bring the placenta, and they give us that, and I was switched on straight away. I was like, what you done? And yet again, in my first labour, I panicked for about 40 minutes, even though I've got this lovely baby, because I thought something was going to happen to us.
Because of the injection. So even in all of that emotional highs, lows, physical exhaustion, all of that, you still had that clarity thought around that injection. Wow.
But in second and third labour, I didn't worry about the injection,
right,
because I had it and I didn't have a reaction the first time. So I felt in my mind then it wasn't the main focus, because I knew I was okay the first time.
Yeah. So the next 2, okay, I know it's coming. I know what it is. I've had it before. I'm okay with it.
I can't even remember getting it the second and third time, because I think obviously my focus wasn't on.
Yeah. The focus was on the baby.
And just not,
right. Yeah. Wow.
So.
Yeah, but to go through like natural childbirth like that without any, you know, any
anything,
painkillers, nothing.
Not even a paracetamol.
Wow.
And it's not, I don't advertise it and think, like I say, because I'm hardcore. It's because I was frightened.
Yeah. It's a fear.
And I had to stay in control. Because that time when I was 16 I was out of control, like, and it was just such a scary experience.
Yeah. So. I mean, the trauma of that, and the spiders coming down and everything like that, dear me.
I was still, honestly, I can still see them now. It's like, it's like right at the front of my mind still, like, but.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
And I think, sorry, because I did divulge that when you said at the beginning, like you said, from if it happened now in mental health, it would be picked up on. I would have went straight for counselling, whether you got it off the NHS or you paid for it, and I would have therapy, and I would have probably have been given programs to work on, and it wouldn't carry us all through.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's not a sympathy card or anything, but sometimes I sit and think, I've done it. Like, I've stopped myself from just if I've got like a bit neck pain, or I take a couple of ibuprofen, I just suffer. Or I go and see someone that like can help you, like a chiropractor or something, like, I don't know, anything. Like, I won't just go to the cupboard if I've got a headache. It's a right palaver. I laugh now, but I do crush 2 paracetamol now. Still can't swallow that tablet for some reason, but I can take them
when they're crushed.
Okay. When they're crushed, where I wouldn't even do that. Or it always had to be like a dissolvable one. Okay. So really, I think I should get over swallowing a tablet now, but for some reason it's still there.
Still with you. Okay.
That's why I like to mention it now, because I think until you hear someone's story and and I'm not embarrassed anymore. I was so ashamed and embarrassed of how I went on with anxiety and how I've carried it, but now I like to talk about it and make people aware.
Your story in regards to that specific initial sort of traumatic experience is probably fairly unique, but then when other people hear about the other sides of it and the impacts of it, there'll probably be a lot of people quite relatable. You'd probably be surprised.
I know. I think that's it. That's what I'm actually interested, like, to know if there's anybody else a bit. You know what I mean? Like, if you had like 10, 20 people in a room or something, and it would be good to like say, what about? I bet there is like a couple.
Yeah, I'm sure there would be. But, you know, it's probably more common than people imagine.
I think I've always labelled myself as, not made a comment, but labelled myself in my head and I'll sit and say, I really feel abnormal. And it's, it affects us still sometimes, because I've let that control my whole, most of my life until now. It's controlled.
Yeah. But you take steps to take control.
Yes.
But because that's an important word that you used during your first birth in particular. You had to be in control.
Yeah.
Because of that traumatic experience when you didn't feel in control, and the tablets and the injections were a big part of that. So, okay. Yeah. Taking more control over how you feel about things and how you respond to things.
Yeah.
Is important.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, going through that and then sort of, you know, dealing with things such as, you know, because we all get poorly, dealing with colds or flus or that type of thing. Did you never sort of take any or never have any? No. Nothing?
If I got cold, I would just get on with it. And I'm one of these, if I'm going to be poorly, I always get the worst end of the stick. I don't just get a quick sniffle. If I get a cold, I always get the worst cold. But I started probably in maybe my late 20s. It might have even been into my 30s, because I think it was when I lived in a different part of. I remember having a lemsip, and I actually, I'm not afraid to say, I sprinkled a few. It had to be blackcurrant for some reason, and I sprinkled a little bit, and I made it, and I had a taste, and I was like, oh, that's nice. And then I used to wait, and then I was fine. So I'd only ever, I like really don't mind saying this, but I only would ever have half a sachet of lemsip. I would have it 4 times a day, but it had to be 4. Half a sachet of lemsip. And I'd done that till, I'm going to be really honest, probably till 2 years ago, 18 months ago.
Right. Okay.
And that's what would get me, because everyone will say, oh, take 2 paracetamol, take this, do that. Lemsip. Even if sometimes I had a bad head and I had a lemsip in the house, I'd take half a sachet.
Right.
Not that I really suffer. Luckily, I don't suffer with bad heads and stuff. But that's what I would do. But now, like, in fact, I was poorly the other day, full limp, sip in the cup, knocked back, gone, done.
Yeah.
So when I do that and I have it, don't ever mention it to anyone else, but I smile to myself and go, and I actually praise myself and I tell myself, because I think it's really important, because I think what I've done for most of my life is I've told myself, do not take that because this will happen.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. This little demon's been in my head. So now I like reverse psychology and I'm like, well done. That's going to actually make you feel a lot better. Full sachet, full amount. And that's what I try and learn to do.
Yeah.
But I've only done that because I've obviously over the times and past I've had like therapy. We can go into it later, whatever, hypnotherapy. So I really feel like all these have helped.
It's good that you take the time though to sort of smile at yourself and take a few minutes if you're proud of it. And people maybe think that's crackers, but when you consider when you wouldn't have anything,
I know,
to that, it's quite the journey that you've been on.
I know. It's but I'm now, like if I had, like, you could turn back and I went back to 16 and we all can say this, but now I wish at the time I had done this earlier, and there probably was opportunities for us too. Like my parents were always very supportive, even to the point my sister, like friends, I'll help you through. But like I think until you're ready, when you've been through that traumatic, whatever it is, if little it is or big as it is, I think it then obviously it just goes on. You've got to do it when you're ready, because I know we hear about health anxiety and it's about the control of the medication, but after that I went into a lift and I got trapped in a lift as well. So that only happened within 3 months of that happening. So I was out of control then. It was a brick wall. So then I got like really scared to be in confined spaces, and I've never use a lift. I don't like being in them. And that's my choice, because I think I can live day to day without going to a lift. I'll just run upstairs. Nothing like that phase bothers me. But obviously medication, as you get older or whatever, sometimes medication saves your life.
Yes.
So that's why I feel like in my 40s, I've really focused on trying, because I'm thinking, one day my life might depend on something like that. And am I going to sit and go, wait a minute, I can't have that, or, oh, can you give us a tiny bit? You know what I mean? Like, that's not real life.
Yeah. Like a vaccination, for example, as the world kind of experienced.
Yes.
So how did you manage around that? I mean, I suppose the first obvious question is, did you have the vaccination?
I did, eventually.
Okay.
Eventually.
So what was the tale around that then?
Well, so I remember because I work in a hospital, and there's something come out saying we had to have it. It was going through, because in my head I wasn't having it. That was it. And everybody, my family were getting it and stuff like that. I was like, I'm not having it. But I actually knew I was only one of the reasons. Everyone's got the views. One of my reason was health anxiety. What if I have it and I have a reaction? Very selfish. And a couple of people who don't understand, and I don't mind, they were like, well, you're just ridiculous. And I was like, that's your view, that's fine.
Yeah.
But my view is I'm scared. So basically, cut a long story short, it come up that we had to have it, or that was it. You would lose your job, or they would have to put you into something else. And my job, like everybody else, it's your bread and butter. It pays the bills, and I've been in my job for a lot of years, since I was 17. And at the moment, I've got a really good job in a hospital, and I have to work in theatre. There's people that I have to help. I'm a dental nurse in the hospital. So I went and saw my boss, and I was like, I don't think I can do this. So I got a lot of support at work. And basically, someone at work took us under the wing. But first of all, I had to go and seek some therapy. And it was great. And I actually got into some hypnotherapy as well, which I thought was really good, and that has actually helped me in the past with this health anxiety.
Okay.
I think the hypnotherapy and having therapy at that time worked together. I was a bit, is it going to work? But obviously, I'm sitting here now talking about health anxiety, can take a Lemsip, can do this. I feel like it's had a big impact in my life, and a lot of people have noticed that.
Yeah.
So, what I'd done, I went to a girl at work and I told her what was happening, and she said, I'm going to help you. So I had some therapy and I had it recorded, and we went, basically, me work all new, and this girl, she took us by the hand and she went to where the vaccinations were. But on that day, she said, bring your phone with you and we'll just go and have a bit chat with the nurses. And it was actually on a children's ward. So when I got there, I was like, oh my God, I'm having a nail on a children's ward. They don't know what happened when I was 16. So I got really panicky. And then I thought, no, you're here for a reason. Anyway, I got the red carpet out. I felt like they were really, they went above and beyond.
Right.
And they took us in a little room and they put us on a bed. There was actually a doctor around on call and she was doing her notes. And the two nurses, who were lovely, they let the doctor know. So she said, I tell you what, are you happy for me to sit in the room with you? I'm just looking out the window doing my notes, but I'm here if you need us. Right. I said, and I was like, what? Like, obviously that was just amazing, that for the reassurance and knowing that there was another medical person there. So then I had this big massive sat on the bed, and I just knew I had to do it that day. And me supportive one of my nurse colleagues, and then there was two other nurses, and they just all worked together, put me therapy on. And when I look back, I was so bad inside, but I kept telling myself, you're doing this because it's going to help you, and you've had this in the past, and you've had your therapy. And this colleague from work just sat and held me hands, and she looked close in my eyes, and she taught us all the way through, and I had to just concentrate looking at her. And the nurses come at both sides, like one was there, and they told us everything they were doing, but I just said to them, when you do it, I don't want to know. And I said, I'm giving you my consent, but I don't want to know. Yeah. And they did it.
Right.
And I was lying back, and straight away I was saying to my colleague, I feel funny, but I wasn't. But it just took us back to this childhood. Right. But she was like, listen to the therapy, listen to what they're saying, look in my eyes. And like within about, I would say, a good minute, and a minute's a long time when you're thinking.
Absolutely.
I could feel myself starting just to relax again. And I knew the doctor was there, and they made us a cup of tea, and they kept us for like about 20 minutes to half an hour in that room to make sure that I didn't have a reaction.
Right. Wow.
So then I got it done.
Yeah. But, to go through all of that with the support, but still at any point you could have got up and walked out, and you didn't.
I didn't, and that's what when I was lying there, and I think for the 30 seconds before it went in, I kept saying to my colleague, I can't do it. I did go through a little, and she actually looked at us and she went, this is your choice and you can leave at any time, but remember, you want this. But if you want to leave, we can leave right now. But I didn't, because deep down I wanted it. I wanted to say, I honestly, when it happened, I wanted to shout out to the world, because it was, you would think I had had a penny in my purse and someone had given us £1 million. Not that anything matters with money, but to me, I felt like I'd won the biggest trophy in the world. I just can't describe. I was just gobsmacked. For days, I was on a high.
Yeah.
I was on a high. I actually think I celebrated with a meal that night or the next day, because I was so over the moon. Yeah. And then when I got back to my ward, the manager was there, and I didn't want to be fussed around, and no one did, but they all just individually either give us a little clap or they give us a cuddle, and they didn't say nothing. No. And when I got home, I was treated like that little girl again, and my parents family, sister, even me boys were like, God, that's amazing. You've like hours. And then I started going, So that was one of, that COVID happening is probably happened in it, for me, it was one of my biggest like achievements that I could ever have happened around health and anxiety and needles, phobia.
Yeah. Wow. There you go.
But also in that, I used to have blood, and I wasn't very good at getting blood taken out. And I would have to have like my dad there, my mum, partner, and it really was severe, and I used to faint every time. But before I had to have the COVID injection, I actually started getting better with that, because I switched my mind. They weren't putting something in, they were taking something out. So I wish I had done that earlier. So I've been good with that probably over the last 2 years. Still like someone there just to support us. But I've actually also at work put my name down for when the next do it. I actually want to start and take blood from people. I want to do it for the bottom of my course, because now I feel like I can do that.
That's a massive step forward though, isn't it? Really. You know, and you talked about feeling, sort of having that smile and feeling proud of yourself, taking a lamb sip. So to do that, as you say, to feel like you were walking on sunshine for a few days after it and feeling so proud and so happy and so confident that you'd managed to overcome it. Yeah. You know, that must have been pretty awesome, really.
Even now I'm smiling here now. Sometimes I just have to ground myself again and go, like, to me, that is one of the biggest achievements I've done. For myself.
Yeah, of course.
And that's what I'd done it for.
Yeah.
Didn't do it for work, didn't do it for my parents, did it to protect other people as well. But the most important thing I'd done this for was me. Because, you know, you're an important individual, everyone. And why try and let this take... Hopefully I've got another 40, 50 years ahead of us. Like, I've already had half of my life really, like, taken up by this. And it gets us so, like, why have you let this do it to yourself? So, that's why it's good to make it aware to people.
Absolutely, yeah. As I say, you know, you're talking about this and people will be able to relate to it. You know, probably more common than you would think. So, but that massive achievement to get that COVID vaccination, you know, and then, you know, it seems to have changed and shifted quite a bit for you now, you know. Yeah, it has. There's one thing, because I think health anxiety is obviously you think you've got something quite bad a lot, or you need to be reassured by people. And sometimes I do say this, I can hear myself saying, and then I'm thinking, stop asking for reassurance and tell yourself you're all right. But I actually have a couple of people that will talk to me and message me over the years, and even if it's just on text messages, I'm feeling like this, yes, well, I've got that, and I actually give that advice to them. And they can, in health anxiety, you talk about yourself for ages, and I'll just let people chat along, and I'll say, actually, can you not change your way of thinking? Switch your mind. And then I think to myself, why didn't you say that yourself years ago? So sometimes I still have to, and no doubt probably for most of the rest of my life I will. But that, like, I love talking about it. I really, because I want to help people. Cause, so, but the reassurance is where I've tried to stop. And if I feel like people are going to start reassuring us, I start to try and stop myself, because that is what you can make it worse. You know, like, at one time I used to think, if I got this or if I got that, but no, you don't need to be reassured. Like, that is one of the that's what I focus on at the moment. Okay, so you're not allowing overthinking around it then?
No, I'm trying my best not to. I have little techniques I do, and I laugh at myself, but sometimes, because obviously in the middle of the night you can wake up, I feel like that's when it gets quite a lot, and I would get panicky. But sometimes in my job that I do, I switch my mind straight away. My technique is, what do you do on a daily basis? What instruments would be used for this? What instruments for that? And sometimes I lie awake thinking about all the instruments or procedures that happen at work, and I switch it obviously I work in a hospital. I deliberately put myself into there.
Yeah.
Because when you've got more aware of things that go around. I've recently, about 6 months ago, I had a few little investigations and I had to have a little procedure. And I had to go to theatre.
Okay.
I opted out of a general anaesthetic straight away.
Okay.
And I was a bit, and am I taking the way out here? Because I am obviously progressing. But I wanted to be awake because I did want to be in control. And I was really frightened, and that's probably, but anyone who hasn't got health anxiety, lots of people are frightened, nervous of an operation, but I still had to have an injection, and it was a big needle, and I was awake, and the theatre staff couldn't believe it, so I got through it, had a little panic attack on the bed, but with the right support, I was absolutely fine. They even let people sit with us a bit longer. But when I went back, I was so proud of myself. You'd think again, I had won a big award because I had done it.
Yeah.
And even the consultant was like, I'm very surprised. And because he says, I met you when you come in here in tears. Because if I have a hospital appointment, it's a big old, oh my God, what's this, what's that? And he said, from meeting you, the first and second consultation, he says, I just saw this strong woman there. And so deep down, I am stronger than I think because of the worry and the health anxiety, and it eats away at you. But I got through it. It wasn't pleasant, but I did it. And yet again, I had tears the next day, like, oh my God, I've actually done this again. But because I've had hypnotherapy, but it's switched me way of thinking, and you'd get through it.
Yeah. And, getting through those things and dealing with those things.
Yeah.
It sounds like the more kind of information you have that you get from a doctor or the consultant, the more information you have, the easier it gets because you understand more about it.
Yeah. Like, I think most people do discuss things. Like, and when they're sitting discussing and giving you all this information, you reading it on a booklet, to me doesn't do anything. But if someone's actually sitting, giving us a bit of time, face to face, this is this, being quite diplomatic, just straight out, but it does help. But I also think I'm helping myself now, and that's a really big factor in this, because soon as a negativity about the health anxiety, I'm switching it around, going, no, remember, this is for you. This is actually going to make you better. This isn't going to be bad. So it's a little bit of work there. It's trusting yourself.
Yeah, but you've done that work in yourself and in therapy to reassure yourself, to trust yourself and the right decisions. So the information that you're getting from the doctors or the consultants, that's helping you inform that decision as well.
And I think you've got to trust them, because obviously everyone's, in a hospital, doctors, whatever. But I'm quite hard to trust. So I think if you build a little bit of relationship with a nurse or the doctor, so whenever I go to appointment, I make it out. I tell them straight, I'm nervous, and I shouldn't maybe do this, but it helps me. But then I feel like it gives them to understand, oh, well, we haven't got someone here that's just looking for a little bit of attention, or we've got a normal nervous patient that actually know how nervous I am. And when you get that little relationship and they actually see that you want to get this done, and then you just have to learn and trust. And like recently I've had good feedback, and obviously if they just give you, like, even if I've spoken to the secretary, I've had a little worry, emailed them, you just get an email back, and just things like that, it just all helps. Where even a year ago, 2 years ago, I wouldn't have even been able to go and have a little operation. So I mean, I'd have to if my life depended on it, but basically I'd have to be pinned down. Honestly, I would have had to have been pinned down.
But now you're coming past that.
Yes.
And feeling good and feeling proud that you've come past
definitely.
that. Yeah. Because as you said earlier, you know, as we get older, we all have to take a bit more
Exactly.
medication maybe, or deal with some more
Yeah.
procedures. So it's sort of the impact of those, you know, and the stress and the anxiety and the build up towards them, is that getting easier as well?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Obviously, if someone said it was tomorrow, right, you're in for, or you've got, I would obviously worry about it, but I'd spend the time talking to myself and doing a little bit, 'cause, you know, I do some breathing exercises and different strategies, coping strategies.
Yeah.
But now this is, you need this because this is going to help you.
Yeah.
It's not going to make anything bad. Nothing bad's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
Like, where at one time I just thought negative, 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 and I couldn't even think about anything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just so, like, at one time it was so hid away. Like, I would be so embarrassed to
Yeah.
tell someone that I couldn't swallow a paracetamol. I couldn't take this, take that. But
I think that's a good sign for you.
yes.
But it's also a good sign that the mental health conversation is
Oh,
becoming more and more
without a
prevalent,
doubt.
which is a great thing. Obviously, you know that we need to know and educate and learn more about it and keep talking about it and keep the conversation growing. And part of that is, you know, you sharing your story today, which is great. So
Yeah.
you know, and you said you've sort of supported people in the past with
Yeah.
it. You know, what was that like? Did you find that rewarding?
I do. I find it really rewarding. Just when someone's saying, I hope you don't mind, but I've noticed, and because I'll make a, I make a comment. I've put it on social media if I've got over something. Well, for those that know me, because I'm not embarrassed anymore. This
Yeah.
is life. So when someone sends you a little message and goes, yeah, I've just read this and thank you so much, and then I'm sitting there giving them that bit of advice, and I smile again and go, I've helped someone today.
Yeah.
Like, this is probably why I'm doing this, because to make it out. I mean, at one time I'd talk about it, I'd cry, like I'd fill up with tears. I would get really sweaty. Where now I smile because I'm so proud and how far I've come.
Yeah.
That I just want to help other people, and that's probably, it's made us take a little bit of a different learning. Like, I want to go down a different path of, like, learning to help people in the future with health anxiety.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've got a college course signed up for September.
Fantastic.
So,
Okay.
yeah, I've always wanted to, probably since my mid-30s, but I haven't had the confidence, and, I think there was a few things I had to sort out in my own mind. But now that where I am sitting here today, I one day hope I qualify and do something to help people with health anxiety, or any anxiety, panic disorder, because I think especially when you've sat in the seat and had it yourself, I think that'll be really rewarding if I can sit in a seat and help somebody else who suffers.
Yeah. And there's like a phrase within therapy, it's the wounded healer. So
Right.
like an addict who recovers and then helps
Yes.
other addicts
Yes.
with drugs or alcohol,
Yes.
for example, they would be classed as a wounded sort
Yeah.
of healer. So that's maybe something around you, and sort of, to move forward and learn about therapy and being a
Without a
counsellor
doubt.
and stuff like that. That sounds like something you're really excited and passionate
I'm
about.
really passionate about it. Like, I've got probably a good 5-year plan. So and it'll be a lot of hard work.
Yeah,
But I'm at a
absolutely.
stage in my life now where it's a little bit more about myself to do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm more settled. My children are adults, and it's something I really want to do. I'm really passionate about it. I Google, I read stuff all the time. So yes, I have got something set up for September. A lot of hard work ahead, but I know what the outcome can be.
Yeah.
And I'd like to be sitting, in working somewhere for someone, just sitting, helping someone else.
Yeah.
Whether it's 20 people, whatever. I just really, because I'm a real caring person, and I just want to develop into that.
Into that professionally.
Professionally, yes.
No, that's brilliant. That's
Yeah.
brilliant. And obviously, as a therapist, there is nothing quite like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
To know that you've helped somebody even during that hour or whatever it might be.
Oh,
But
yes.
you've lightened their load a little bit. There's no sort of job satisfaction quite like it. But it's great that you're gonna do that and progress down that route. I'm sure it's something that you'll love.
Like recently, quickly, there was like an episode where someone was really having a panic attack, and I actually took control, and I literally sat on their legs. It was someone I knew quite well, and made them look in my eyes, and I got them out of that panic attack. Probably took about a good 4 minutes, but I got them breathing properly again, and it really made us feel good, because I remember being that person, and my dad, like, literally not holding us down, like, but like, calm down, doing different techniques. Me mum, but my dad was always the one that done it for me. I've rang my parents in the middle of the night before, and my dad's like, remember this. So I thought the technique he used with me, I find I use that now, and because looking in the eyes like they did when I had my injection, and I really helped this person, and I felt I was on a bit of a high for a few hours, because I was like that used to be me, and now I've done that.
That's it, isn't it? It's like sort of switching that around, like you were talking about a different mindset before. It's finding that different way, and that's not to say that technique will work for everybody.
No,
because we're all individuals, but that technique did work in that instance and help that other person, so that's great. It's good.
I think eventually I'd like to be able to, I feel like I have come a long way, but I'd like to just be able to go to the cupboard and swallow a paracetamol. But I know loads of people who have to half them anyway, and they go, oh, they're dead chunky, I can't swallow them. But I'm not frightened to take them, like, wait one time, so I must say that if a doctor prescribes us of medication now, I do always ask for the medicine form, and like I can see them rolling their eyes thinking, oh. But I generally get it. But if I can't, and I know my life depends on it, I just have to get on with it. But that's just the control bit of me, and I have to. But at least now I learn to switch my mind to go, remember, this isn't harming you. This is actually going to save you or make you feel better. Where at one time I couldn't even think of them words. I'd be like, just no, I'm not taking them. That's it, not taking them.
But again, those steps will come in time. Those changes will happen when you're ready to make them. And I'm sure in that instance, if it was like, take that because I'm sure you would find the strength to do it. And I'm sure you would find that clarity of thought to do it as well.
Well, me bit of advice off my mum: you're always as strong. You're stronger than you think. And I never used to believe it, but I actually now start to go, actually, if that's the case, how did you get through that stage with health? How did you get through that stage when that happened? And that goes back to, obviously, I had them 3 children with major health anxiety. But I think in your 20s, you're still like young, and you're not as worried, because I did find it did get worse the older I got. That's why I wish it had got curbed when I was younger.
Well, you're indestructible in your 20s, aren't you? Nothing matters. You're absolutely indestructible. But as you say, having that therapy that helped when you were 16 and maybe into 17, just to try and overcome it, if you like, would have been probably what would happen now. But it didn't then, and it's just, I suppose, in that. It is what it is. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is, because it's happened for all these years. But I think that's important to reflect on what your mum said there, because, I mean, it always takes, and I say this to pretty much every client, it takes a strength and a courage to come to therapy anyway.
Yes.
I think there's always an admiration that, despite the conversation growing, there's still that strength to actually come into the therapy and be willing to work on yourself.
Yes.
So you've had that strength.
Yeah.
You've got that bravery and that courage to keep going and overcome those types of things or deal with them in the best way that you can. So, yeah, it's nice that your mum pointed that out and acknowledged that. Again, you've got the strength and the courage to go to therapy and deal with those things and sort of take control over things.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think it's probably something I personally think I'll probably use most of my life, because if it helps, then why not?
Yeah.
I just think it's very important, like you say now, mental health, therapy, anxiety, it's all, and I love that it's out there. I like that it's out there now, because you hide away for such a long time. I talk about it to anybody, and I'm not ashamed.
Yeah, no, should you be? No,
No.
I'd like to think that stigma around it is getting less and less and less as the conversation grows more and more and more. You know, workplaces have well-being programs and schools do and all those types of things. So the educational side is fantastic. It's great that keeps growing. But
Workplaces as well, absolutely. I think they do, don't they?
Yeah, and there's nobody should be embarrassed to say that. I mean, what's the statistics now? It's something like 3 in 4 have some kind of mental health issue, you know, and then it's about how you deal with it. And if that's, 6 or 8 hypnotherapy sessions, or if it's 6 or 8 counselling sessions, if it's 6 years, whatever it takes, whatever works for that person. But as long as there's progress being made, then that's the way to do it, isn't it?
Without a doubt, definitely.
It just takes time. Because we all move at different paces, and we all have our own perspectives. So, But and no doubt you'll find all this out on your college course.
Once I'm start that, so that'll be a good journey.
Fantastic. That's
I like
great,
a challenge, and that's my latest challenge now.
Well, yeah, and it's that point in time in life,
it's
as
the
you
right
say,
time.
The kids are adults now, and you've got a bit more time and space for yourself, and you can go from there. So, no, that's brilliant. So I wish you well with that.
No, thank you very much. Thanks for having us today.
Thank you very much for sharing your story. I'm sure people will relate to that. Probably more than you think. But
well, if it helps one person, that's all I'm happy for.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what.
Absolutely. So thank you very much.
No,
for
thank
your time
you very
this morning.
much too.
And take care, and we'll catch up soon.
Okay, thank you.